Something has entered our solar system that never formed here. Not an asteroid, not a normal comet. This object came from another star system entirely, and it's been traveling through space for longer than Earth has existed. When NASA pointed the James Webb Space Telescope at it, the results surprised the scientists themselves. The chemicals inside this object don't match anything ever seen in a solar system. Comet. Its name is 3IATLAS. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what Webb found, why some scientists briefly thought this could be artificial, and just how old this object really turned out to be. That last number is going to surprise you. The third visitor. 3I means this is only the third interstellar object humans have ever confirmed. Something that didn't form in our solar system, but arrived from somewhere else in the galaxy, crossed paths with our sun, and is now leaving again forever. The first was ʻOumuamua back in 2017. It was so strange, so oddly shaped, that some scientists briefly debated whether it might not even be natural. The second was Comet Borisov in 2019, which behaved more like a typical comet and calmed a lot of that speculation down. Then, in July 2025, a third one showed up. And this time, it wasn't just another data point. It turned out to be the biggest, the most active, and by far the most closely studied interstellar object we've ever encountered. It was first spotted by a telescope network called ATLAS, short for Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, a system originally built just to watch for dangerous asteroids that might threaten Earth. Instead, on this particular day, it caught something far stranger drifting through the frame. Here's the part that even surprised the Discovery team. When researchers went back and checked older archived images, they found this object had actually already been photographed 55 days earlier, back in May 2025. Nobody had noticed. It was simply too faint, too far away, moving too quietly through the dark. Once discovered, everything about this object's motion told scientists it wasn't behaving like something from our own neighborhood. It was moving at roughly 68 kilometers per second, faster than anything humans have ever built. And it was following a path that would only bring it through our solar system once. After this, it will never come back. Not in 1,000 years, not ever. But its speed and its one-time visit weren't even the strangest part of the story. A size that doesn't add up. When the Hubble Space Telescope photographed the comet in July 2025, it captured something almost beautiful. A glowing teardrop-shaped cloud of dust streaming off a solid icy core, drifting quietly through the black. But here's where things get strange. Scientists still can't agree on how big that core actually is. Some measurements suggest it's as small as 440 meters across, about the length of 4 football fields. Other estimates, based on Hubble's own imaging, put it as large as 5.6 kilometers, roughly the size of a small city. That's an enormous gap for scientists to have on something they're actively studying with world-class telescopes. And the reason is almost ironic. The comet is producing so much gas that it's literally hiding its own true size from us. That gas cloud, called a coma, stretched to roughly 700,000 kilometers wide at its peak. For comparison, the distance between Earth and the Moon is about 384,000 kilometers. This comet's gas cloud was nearly double that distance across. Try to picture that for a second. A solid core that might be smaller than a small town, somehow producing a cloud of gas, big enough to swallow the entire distance between us and the Moon twice over. Scientists didn't expect that level of activity from an object this old and this far from the Sun. It meant that even after billions of years drifting through the cold vacuum of interstellar space, this comet still had enough volatile ice left to put on a dramatic show as it neared our sun. And as strange as this was, it was only the warm-up act. What came next is the real reason this comet made international headlines. What James Webb actually found. This is where things stopped making sense in a way nobody predicted. As 3IATLAS moved past the sun and began heading back out into deep space, NASA made an unusual decision. They interrupted the James Webb Space Telescope's planned observation schedule just to point it directly at this one object. Using an instrument called NIR-SPEC, Webb broke the comet's light apart in incredible detail, essentially reading its exact chemical fingerprint from millions of miles away. And what came back shocked the research team. Webb detected deuterium, a heavier version of hydrogen, at levels roughly 30 times higher than anything ever found in a comet from our own solar system. That single number matters enormously because deuterium levels act almost like a chemical clock, revealing how cold and how ancient an object's original birthplace really was. 30 times higher isn't a small difference. It's the kind of number that makes researchers stop, double-check their instruments, and run the numbers again just to be sure they weren't looking at some kind of error. They weren't. The reading held up every time. The conclusion they eventually reached was almost hard to believe. This comet most likely formed during the early history of the Milky Way galaxy, in an environment nothing like the one that produced our own solar system. These findings were formally published in the science journal Nature on June 22, 2026, and within days, headlines around the world were calling it one of the most important interstellar discoveries in years. But NASA wasn't finished, because just weeks later Webb made a second discovery, and this one is what really broke the internet. The discovery that made headlines. In June 2026, NASA confirmed something new. Webb's second major instrument, called MIRI, had detected methane escaping from the comet. This wasn't a small trace amount either. The ratio of methane to water detected was roughly 11 times higher than anything typically seen in solar system comets. Combined with the unusually high levels of carbon dioxide already detected months earlier, scientists said this pointed toward a completely different chemical environment, one shaped around a different star under different conditions, billions of years before our own sun even existed. For most scientists, this was thrilling news about comet chemistry and galactic history. But for the internet, it raised a completely different kind of question. The question everyone was asking: high methane levels, an object potentially older than almost anything ever studied. Chemistry, unlike anything from our own cosmic backyard. It didn't take long before one of the most well-known scientists in the world, Harvard's Avi Loeb, publicly raised a question that spread across social media within hours. Could this unusual methane signature actually be a sign of biological activity? Something alive, somehow, inside this ancient interstellar traveler? The idea spread fast. Headlines picked it up. Comment sections exploded. Podcasts, news channels, and late-night shows all started asking the same thing. For a brief moment, a serious possibility was being discussed in public by credible scientists, not internet conspiracy accounts. Was 3IATLAS more than just a comet? Scientists took the question seriously enough to actually investigate it properly, rather than simply dismissing it. The SETI Institute, working alongside the Breakthrough Listen project, turned the massive Allen telescope array directly toward the comet. Their goal was simple: search for any radio signal that could hint at something artificial. They scanned an almost unbelievable 74 million individual radio signals. Out of that entire data set, only 201 signals made it through the initial filtering process as possible candidates. Every single one of those 201 was investigated in detail, one by one. And then the final answer came in. Every single one of those 201 signals traced back to something completely ordinary: human-made interference, satellites passing overhead, ground-based communication, equipment. Everyday radio noise generated right here on Earth. Not one signal came from anything artificial near the comet. Nothing stronger than a household light bulb's worth of power was ever detected coming from 3IATLAS. 3IATLAS is completely natural. No hidden technology, no biological signal. Just an extraordinarily ancient chunk of ice and rock drifting silently through the galaxy. And somehow, that answer makes what comes next feel even stranger. Older than you think. New research, still moving through the peer review process, suggests that 3IATLAS may have formed in a cold, distant region of our galaxy, somewhere between 10 and 12 billion years ago. Take a second to really sit with that number. Earth is about 4.6 billion years old. This means the comet currently leaving our solar system right now could realistically be more than twice as old as our entire planet. And if the higher end of that estimate holds up, its age comes remarkably close to the estimated age of the Milky Way galaxy itself, at roughly 13.6 billion years, and edges near the age of the universe at about 13.8 billion years. When the material that eventually formed this comet first began coming together, our sun didn't exist yet. Our solar system wasn't even a possibility. Earth, the moon, Mars, none of it. This object has been quietly drifting through the galaxy since a point in time that's almost impossible to properly imagine. Researchers also admit something humbling here. We may never actually know which star system this comet originally came from. After billions of years exposed to cosmic radiation, its original chemistry has likely been altered and scrambled beyond recognition, erasing whatever clues might have pointed back to its true home. 3I. Atlas has now left our solar system for good. It will never pass this way again. Every eye in the solar system was watching. Here's something most coverage of this story completely leaves out. Webb and Hubble weren't the only ones watching. NASA quietly turned an entire fleet of missions toward this one comet. TESS, a spacecraft normally used to hunt for planets around other stars, was redirected for a special observation run just to study the comet's activity and rotation. SphereX captured the infrared glow of water, dust, and organic molecules inside its coma. Even Perseverance, sitting on the surface of Mars, and orbiters like MRO and MAVEN got a distant look as the comet swung past. Spacecraft built for entirely different missions, hunting exoplanets, mapping Mars, monitoring the sun. were all, for a brief window, pointed at the same ancient traveler passing through. That's how rare this moment was. An object like this might not cross our path again for decades, maybe longer. So NASA used almost everything it had. And there's one more detail that puts this entire story in perspective. This isn't the first interstellar visitor we've ever caught, but it is by far the most revealing. ʻOumuamua came and went in 2017 so fast and so faintly that scientists barely had time to point anything at it before it vanished into the dark, leaving behind more questions than answers. Comet Borisov in 2019 gave researchers a better look, but nowhere near the level, of detail Webb managed to pull from 3IATLAS. This time, for the first time in human history, we didn't just catch a fleeting glimpse of something from another star system. We got its chemical fingerprint, its age, its formation history, a level of detail nobody expected to have this soon, which raises an unavoidable question. If this is what we learned from the third interstellar object we've ever found, what happens when a fourth one shows up, and a fifth? An object possibly older than the Earth itself, chemistry unlike anything found in our solar system. A brief, very real investigation into whether it might somehow be alive, and a final answer that still leaves scientists in awe. 3I, Atlas, passed through our cosmic neighborhood for only a few short months, and in that time it left behind one of the most important interstellar discoveries of the decade. Think about what that actually means. A frozen relic that formed before our sun, before Earth, before almost everything in our own cosmic backyard, spent billions of years drifting silently through the galaxy, surviving radiation, surviving the crushing emptiness of interstellar space, and then, for one brief moment, it happened to cross paths with us. Out of the entire galaxy, at exactly the right time, our telescopes were pointed in the right direction to catch it. Scientists say studying objects like this isn't just about comets or chemistry. It's about understanding whether the basic ingredients for life are common or rare across our galaxy. Every interstellar visitor we catch adds another piece to that much bigger question. And here's the thought worth sitting with as this video ends. This almost certainly isn't the last object like this we'll ever see. 3 interstellar visitors in less than a decade means more are likely already out there, silently drifting through the galaxy right now, waiting for the next telescope, the next discovery, the next headline. If this story blew your mind, let me know in the comments below. What do you think we'll find the next time something like this crosses our path? See you in the next one.